Los Angeles, California, December 1941. The lights of Hollywood still shimmered, but the city was no longer dreaming. Only days after Pearl Harbor, fear swept across the Pacific like a dark tide. The U.S. government warned of something few dared to believe, that the enemy could strike the American mainland. And if they did, Los Angeles, America's beating industrial heart, would be the first target. The city of stars was suddenly a city under siege. Theaters went dark, streetlights dimmed. Anti-aircraft guns appeared on rooftops where film cameras once stood. Movie studios that had built fantasies for the silver screen were now building something else entirely. Weapons, engines, and war machines. Inside the Lockheed Vega aircraft plant in Burbank, thousands of workers assembled the P-38 Lightning, the fighter that would soon dominate the skies. But from above, that vast network of hangars and runways was a perfect bullseye for Japanese bombers. The military needed a miracle, fast. They couldn't move the factory. They couldn't stop production. But maybe they could make it disappear. That's when Hollywood stepped in. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers summoned some of the most skilled artists and set designers in the world, men who had created the landscapes of The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind. Among them was John Stuart Detley, an MGM art director who was told to build something no one should ever see. Build an entire fake city. Under Detley's guidance, engineers, carpenters, and Hollywood technicians began constructing a vast camouflage cover over the Lockheed plant. They built fake neighborhoods made of wood, fabric and paint, rows of houses, streets, fences, even cars made of cardboard. Everything was designed to trick the human eye from thousands of feet in the air. During the day, the illusion was flawless. From above, pilots would see nothing but a quiet suburb under the California sun. Underneath that mirage, thousands of men and women built the planes that would help win the war. At night, the illusion came alive. Lights flickered behind false windows. Painted streets reflected the moonlight. Women hung laundry on wires. Soldiers moved fake cars so their shadows would shift naturally with the sun. Every detail mattered. Every illusion could mean the difference between survival and destruction. It was the most ambitious film set Hollywood had ever created. But this time there would be no credits and no applause. The people working under that false sky called it the City of Cardboard. They knew that one mistake, a misplaced shadow, a glint of metal could expose everything. So each morning, Detley's team climbed the rooftops to adjust the paint, the angles, and the texture of the neighborhood. Even the color of the soil was changed daily to match the shifting California light. By February 1942, the deception was ready. The Army called it a miracle of camouflage. Hollywood called it the Phantom City. Then one night the siren screamed. Radar picked up unidentified aircraft heading toward the coast. Searchlights pierced the clouds. Anti-aircraft guns opened fire. It was chaos, what newspapers later called the Battle of Los Angeles. For hours, tracer rounds lit the sky like a storm of fire. People prayed, soldiers shouted, the city shook. But when the smoke cleared, no enemy bomb had fallen. The Japanese never found the target because the target wasn't there. The deception had worked. Los Angeles, the city of light and illusion, had used its greatest weapon, imagination. While bombs fell across the world, Hollywood had turned fantasy into defense. They built a lie, and that lie saved thousands of lives. The secret of Los Angeles didn't stay in Los Angeles. When the U.S. Army realized that the illusion had worked, they made a chilling discovery. Deception could win battles before a single shot was fired. The idea spread quickly through the ranks. If Hollywood could hide an entire city, what else could illusion hide? Soon new projects appeared across the country. Phantom airfields, dummy factories, decoy ships floating in empty harbors. It was the beginning of an invisible war, one fought with art instead of artillery. Out of this revelation was born one of the most extraordinary operations of World War II, the Ghost Army. Its mission was simple, but dangerous beyond measure: to make the enemy see what wasn't there and ignore what was. These men were not soldiers in the usual sense. They carried brushes instead of rifles, paint instead of bullets, and their battlefield was perception itself. Among their tools were rubber tanks, inflatable airplanes, and fake convoys stretching for miles. They built entire armies that could be packed into a truck, and when the sun rose, those illusions stood in perfect formation, ready to fool German reconnaissance pilots scanning the skies. It was theater on a scale the world had never seen. Many of the artists who had once painted sunsets on Hollywood backdrops were now painting shadows on real battlefields. They used the same techniques developed over Los Angeles: false perspective, trick lighting, and camouflage so subtle it could deceive even friendly pilots. In 1944, these phantom soldiers staged their most daring deception yet. While real Allied divisions prepared to cross into Normandy, the Ghost Army created the illusion of a massive invasion force. Positioned elsewhere, they blasted the sound of trucks and engines through giant speakers, laid down fake tracks in the mud, and filled fields with inflatable tanks and cardboard barracks. From the air, it looked exactly like an army waiting to attack. Hitler took the bait. The German High Command shifted its defenses to the wrong location, buying the Allies precious time and saving thousands of lives. It was a masterpiece of illusion, and it all traced back to that first experiment under the skies of California. Yet the price of deception was silence. These operations remained classified for decades. The men and women who had helped trick the enemy went home with no medals, no credit, and no mention in the history books. Their victories lived only in whispers. Years later, a former Hollywood set designer named Harry Clark, one of the original architects of the Phantom City, wrote in his diary, "We learned something powerful in Los Angeles. If you can control what the enemy sees, you can control what they believe. And sometimes belief is stronger than any weapon." When the war ended, the fake neighborhoods were torn down. The fabric rolled away, the props destroyed. Nothing remained of the Phantom City but a few photographs, a handful of blueprints, and the memories of those who had built it. But their legacy endured, not in the movies they once made, but in the real world they helped save. They proved that even in war, creativity could protect life. That illusion, in the right hands, could be an act of mercy. Hollywood had always been a factory of dreams. During the darkest years of the 20th century, it became a shield of light. Europe, 1944. The war had changed, but the battle for perception had just begun. From the skies above France to the fields of Belgium, an invisible army moved through the night, men who carried no guns, only brushes, wires, and speakers. They were the artists of deception. They were the Ghost Army. Their mission was simple: make the enemy believe a lie so completely that they'd never see the truth coming. By now, the techniques born in Los Angeles had evolved into something extraordinary. Inflatable tanks rolled across meadows. Rubber airplanes sat proudly on fake runways. Whole battalions were painted onto canvas, an army made of air and imagination. At dawn, reconnaissance pilots saw them from above and reported massive troop movements. German intelligence reacted instantly, shifting artillery, pulling back reserves, preparing for an attack that would never come. Every false shadow, every echo of an engine was a weapon of war. The Ghost Army worked in silence, hidden within the chaos of real divisions. They were not allowed to reveal who they were or what they did. If captured, they would be shot as spies. So they moved like ghosts, unseen, unarmed, and unrecognized. Each mission was a performance. They created what the enemy needed to see, using art as armor and sound as ammunition. Massive loudspeakers played recorded tanks rumbling through the night. Truck engines echoed in valleys where no trucks existed. The illusion was perfect, terrifying, even to those who knew it was fake. When you think of war, you imagine soldiers and blood. But there, in the mud and rain of Europe, painters and sound engineers changed history with nothing but fabric, light and sound. One of them, a young sound technician named Arthur Shillstone, once said, "We were actors on the world's deadliest stage. Our lines were silence, our props were shadows, and our curtain call was survival." They carried with them a strange kind of guilt, to lie in service of truth, to build illusions that would cost the enemy lives but save their own. They weren't heroes in the traditional sense, but without them, many heroes would never have come home. Each operation was a test of courage and precision. If even one German scout had gotten too close, the entire deception would have fallen apart. A single bullet into a rubber tank could have exposed the whole charade. And yet, time after time, they succeeded. In one operation near the Rhine, they convinced the enemy that an entire armored division was preparing to attack from the south. The real troops crossed from the north instead, without resistance. That day, illusion saved thousands. It was war as theater, and every performance had to be flawless. What began in the quiet streets of Los Angeles had now spread across the continents. The art of camouflage had become the art of war itself, and behind every false shadow was the memory of a city that once vanished under the California sun. Germany, March 1945. The war was reaching its brutal end, but no one knew it yet. The air was thick with smoke and fear, and somewhere along the Rhine River, a handful of men prepared to pull off the greatest illusion of their lives. They called it Operation Fearson, a deception so bold that if it failed, thousands would die. The mission: make the German army believe that the main Allied crossing would happen, miles south of its true location. The real attack was already in motion to the north. The Ghost Army's job was to distract an entire division of enemy soldiers, and they had only one night to do it. The men set to work under a black sky. They inflated hundreds of tanks, trucks, and artillery pieces. Canvas flapped in the cold wind as air compressors hummed quietly in the dark. Every sound, every light, had to match the rhythm of a real army. By dawn, the empty fields along the Rhine had transformed. Where there had been nothing, now stood a vast encampment, tents, vehicles, command posts, even tire tracks in the mud. It was a masterpiece of illusion. The Germans took the bait. Scouts reported heavy troop presence, artillery positions, and tank movements. Enemy spotters called in coordinates. Within hours, German forces began shelling the fake army, a barrage of fire raining down on rubber and air. The Ghost Army huddled in the mud, praying the deception would hold long enough for the real soldiers to cross upriver. They had no weapons to fight back. Their only defense was the power of the lie they had built. And it worked. The real Allied divisions crossed the Rhine with almost no resistance. By the time the Germans realized they had been deceived, it was too late. The crossing had succeeded, the front had collapsed, and the war was nearly over. That was the Ghost Army's final act. After that, the illusionists of war packed up their paints, their fabric, and their silence. Their mission was complete. Their names were erased from the records, their existence classified for more than 50 years. Some went back to Hollywood. Others returned to quiet lives, working as teachers, architects, or artists. They never spoke of what they had done. It wasn't until decades later that their story finally surfaced. The secret soldiers who fought not with bullets, but with creativity. Men who risked their lives for an idea. That imagination could save lives. One of them, a camouflage officer named Bernie Mason, said before his death, "We weren't just faking an army. We were fighting to protect real men. And if art could make that possible, then art was worth dying for." When the truth was finally declassified, historians found only fragments. A few faded photos, sketches, and silent reels of film showing men laughing beside rubber tanks. No medals, no headlines, no glory. Just proof that sometimes the most powerful weapons in history leave no smoke, no sound, and no trace. The war ended soon after, and the Ghost Army faded back into the shadows. Their story untold, their courage invisible, their victory made of nothing but light and imagination. Los Angeles, 1946. The war was over, and the world was breathing again. The city of dreams had survived the storm, but beneath the sunshine and the palm trees, few people knew the truth. That Hollywood had once hidden an entire city to protect the world from destruction. The fake neighborhood that had covered the Lockheed Vega plant was gone now. The streets, the rooftops, the cardboard cars, all dismantled, buried, forgotten. Only a few photos remained, tucked away in dusty government archives. stamped with the word classified. For decades, no one spoke about it. Even the workers who had lived under that false sky kept their secret. To them, it had simply been their job. A strange, quiet kind of heroism. But the legacy of that deception didn't disappear. It lived on in every shadow painted by the Ghost Army. It shaped the art of camouflage for generations to come. And it proved something the world had nearly forgotten: that our creativity can be a weapon of survival. Hollywood had always been the place where illusions came to life. But during the war, illusion had done something no film ever could. It had saved lives. In time, historians uncovered the story piece by piece. They found blueprints of the Phantom City, handwritten notes from set designers, and faded aerial photos showing a neighborhood that never existed. What they discovered was not just a tale of deception, but a story of faith, ingenuity, and unity at a time when the world was breaking apart. One surviving artist, when asked why he did it, simply said, "We fought the darkness with light, and if we had to lie to save the truth, then it was the most honest thing we could do." That line has echoed through time, because in every generation, in every battle, there are people who build illusions, not to deceive, but to protect. Los Angeles returned to its lights and cameras, its red carpets and golden premieres. But hidden deep within its history is a story few have ever heard. How a city built to dream, once pretended to sleep so that others could wake up to a new dawn. It's a reminder of what imagination can do when the world demands courage. That even in war, art can be an act of mercy. That sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who never fired a shot. They only painted a different reality and made the enemy believe it. Because in the end, the city that fooled the Luftwaffe wasn't just a trick of light. It was a masterpiece of hope, written by the hands of those who dared to imagine peace in the middle of war.